Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Kathy and I want to thank you for joining me today. One thing I want to say right off is that I apologize for not getting a video up 2 or 3 weeks ago when it was due. There were just some family situations that made it difficult to do the video, and so I just wanted to let you know I acknowledge that and I appreciate your patience with me on getting this video up. If you like this video today, please be sure and hit the like button. If you think you might want more videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. And today we are going to be looking at another dream work method that I developed when I was working on my spiritual direction certification. This was part of my final project for that program. And the name of this specific method is called Color Your Feelings, and it focuses strictly on the feelings in the dream. It looks at triggers of the feelings, and it looks at the thoughts you had of those feelings when you had those feelings, and as well as behaviors you may have done when you had those feelings. So a couple of things, first of all, that you will need for this dream work method: colored pencils, crayons, markers, whatever you like to use when you do things like this, when you color or when you write or draw or whatever you may do. One of the things that could be positive, if you could, is to have an option of several different colors so that you can have options and not stick with just your regular green, blue, red, purple, although there's absolutely nothing wrong with those colors or with having that limited amount of colors. So whatever's available to you is the most important thing, because you can use whatever you have. The other thing that you will need in this method is paper. Now, with my dream work resource packet, I always send various pieces of paper that people can choose from to do some of the methods that are in that resource pack. It can be colored, it can be white, it can be circular, triangle, square. It doesn't have to be white, it can be whatever color you choose on that. So all of these things play an important role in what it is that is going on with you, because if I choose a circle over a square, that might be saying something, and more than likely is. It's not that I necessarily need to know what it's saying, but just acknowledge that there's a reason I chose circle over a square. So let's get into the dream work method called Color Your Feelings. And as in all dream work, the first thing you want to do is to just take a moment to be silent. Not just in your surroundings, but in your mind, in your heart, in your body, just to be silent for a moment and offer up gratitude for the dream that you received. The second thing you want to do is you want to write down whatever you remember about your dream. And you want to use present tense, first person. And the reason for this is so that when you are working with the dream, you are able to be in the dream or to relive that dream. And it will just make it more conducive to knowing what's going on, to being present, to understanding the here and now in that moment in that dream. So for example, instead of saying, I was standing at the table, you would say, I am standing at the table. Again, that is so it will put you in the present moment dream. After you have written the dream down, you want to read the dream out loud. Now, as you read the dream, you want to write down each feeling you experience in the dream as you're reading it out loud. Now, you do not want to write down the feeling that you're having when you're reading that dream. You want to totally focus on the dream, the feeling in the dream that you had. Looking at your feelings after the dream and when you're awake, that's a different way to look at the dream. So right now we are just looking at the feelings in the dream. You're also wanting to write down next to that feeling, you're wanting to write down the trigger of that feeling. In other words, what caused the feeling in the first place. Secondly, you want to write down what you thought when you were having that feeling. Next, you can write down the behavior also. The feeling and the trigger is important. Sometimes the behavior will be important as well. One of the things I've learned also is that sometimes we get stuck in looking at the broad family of a feeling. So I would encourage you to get a list of various feeling families. I send this with my Dream Resource Packet because it just makes it more specific. It can make it more specific on that. So like for example, this list that I have is listed in categories of feeling families. So for example, if you know it's a positive feeling that you're experiencing, but you can't quite place the exact feeling, you could look at this list and go, oh, it was bold. It was a positive feeling and I was feeling bold. And that way you're just more specific about what you're feeling, as opposed to, well, it was a positive feeling. I mean, I felt good, but I don't know exactly what that feeling was. So you could Google, Yahoo, whatever search engine you enjoy using, and just put feelings list, and it will give you many options for that. So for example, if you were feeling like in my dream that I'm going to be talking about, one of the feelings I had was shock. So I would write down shock, and then the trigger was that the gum landed on the boy's butt. That's going to be part of my dream. And the thought was, how did that happen? And my behavior was trying to get it off. So you would want to write down your feeling, the trigger, the thought, and the behavior, if there was a behavior connected to it. After you have completed that step number 3, you want to read the dream out loud so that you can make sure that all the feelings are listed that you experienced in the dream. Now, the 5th step that you have, for each feeling, you would want to get your crayons or your colors or your colored markers. You would want to get these, have them out where you can see all of the colors at the same time. And you would want to pick out a color that represents each one of those feelings. Now, there's no right or wrong color for your feeling. You are the one that needs to decide if anger is red, if it's black, if it's purple, whatever color it might be for you, that is the color you would choose. And then under that list, you would underline, boldly underline that feeling with that color, because that's going to be your legend later on in the dream work. So you would pick out a color for each one of those feelings. Then you would want to choose a piece of paper. Whatever size you want, whatever color you want, whatever shape you want. You may even want to cut out a shape, a specific shape. You pick the color, the paper that you want to use for this exercise. The 7th step is you want to set aside that list of feelings. Turn it over so you can't look at it. You want to get the colors, the crayons, the colored pencils, whatever it may be, and just kind of mix them up. Don't have them in any order whatsoever. Then you want to pick a color, and maybe even close your eyes so you don't consciously or subconsciously pick the color that represents some feeling. Right now, you don't want to connect any of these colors to any of the feelings. So you would close your eyes, pick up a color, and just start coloring that page. Now, you don't want to draw or doodle. That would be a totally different exercise for the dream work method. This is strictly coloring the paper. You can do different shadings, boldness. You can draw lines, but not necessarily doodle. You may want to use circular lines or clouds or whatever. The other thing is you do not have to color the entire sheet of paper. You may only do part of it. You may only do the middle part of it. You may only color the edge part of it. Whatever you feel led to do or whatever seems right for you, color that paper in that way. Excuse me. And when you look at the color, when you pick up a color, try not to remember, don't even try to think about what feeling you matched with that color. That would defeat the purpose a little bit, because you're depending on your unconscious to make connections, overlaps, whatever it is, patterns that might be there. So you do not want to consciously pick a color connected to a feeling. Just at random pick up colors and draw and not draw, I'm sorry, but just color the paper in. After you've done that, you want to, first of all, identify dominant colors. And by dominant, what do you think of as dominant? Is it a color that colors most of the page? Is it a color that is really bold but then light? Or is it just a dark color? Whatever you consider dominant is, you identify the dominant color, because that will identify the dominant feeling, even though you may have only felt it short term. Then you want to identify patterns of the colors or designs of the color. You could ask yourself, are there overlapping colors? Which colors touch? Which colors are bolder than others? Which colors go diagonal? Which colors go horizontal? Which colors touch? Which colors do not touch? So there's all kinds of patterns and things you can look at after you have colored that sheet of paper. When you feel like you have found the patterns, you've looked at the various questions that you ask yourself about the coloring itself, this is where you pick up your list of feelings. And you want to look at your list of feelings and then find the color that corresponds to that feeling. Excuse me. Then begin to look at, what is this dream saying? Where is this dream leading? What are the feelings about? What are the feelings saying about the dream and what's going on in the dream, and about how you're responding to that dream? Then when you do that, sit for a moment again in silence and just hold the sheet that you've done to the dream giver, to the Holy Spirit. Hold it sacredly for a moment in silence. Again, you can never have too much silence when you're doing something like this. So whether it's a minute, whether it's 30 seconds, take that moment of silence, because you're giving space at that time to do what needs to be done excuse me, with your inner self, and perhaps in outer situations as well. So after you've sat for a moment, you want to review the feelings, look at their triggers, look at your thoughts, and look at your behaviors that were in your dream. Then you want to ask, are there any similar feelings, situations, triggers in your outer and inner life? And by inner life, I mean that in which you are being worked on in your psyche, with your ego, with your id, with your soul, with your growth, your transformation. That's what I mean by your inner life. And that's being worked on just as much as the outer world in which you live is being worked on. So you may want to ask questions, and you don't necessarily want answers or need answers at this point for your questions, but to hold the questions sacredly. You know, when Jesus said, "Who do you say that I am?" He does not necessarily want an answer. He wants you to contemplate that. Who am I for you, he's saying. So think about that. What is it that these questions are saying for you, and are they guiding you in any direction? Also, just look in general at what's going on and see if in fact it's what the dream is sharing with you, what it's asking of you, what it's encouraging you, or is it warning you against anything? Now, if there's a way you could honor your dream, try to honor your dream, especially if you're sensing that you need to do something to honor that. And we've talked about honoring your dream in previous videos. So, and in this, when I look at my dream specifically that I worked with, we'll look at what I did to honor that dream. When you are done, sit for a moment in grateful silence for the dream that you had. And of course, at this point, I would say, are there any questions? So I will ask that now. Do you have any questions about this dream method, or about any dream work at all, or about dreams in general? If you do, please leave them in the comment section, because my next video is going to address questions that people have had. and people have about some dream techniques that I've shared with you, as well as just dreams in general. So now let's look at the dream that I worked with this method. So let me read that dream for you. It's the same dream that I used in the TTAQ method, and it's important. I'm doing that intentionally because it's important to note and see how you can work one dream in many different ways and still glean different information each time you work with it. So that's just an important note, and it's really good to do that when you can, so that you can get the full information that the dream has for you. So here's my dream. It's as if I'm at an event and a lot of youth are there. There's an assembly and we're getting ready to sing or something. I have gum in my mouth, so I get out of my seat, well, out of line actually, as we're all standing up at our seats. There's a garbage can, a big metal one, behind the last row of seats in my section. So I go back there to throw my gum in the garbage. I don't spit the gum out of my mouth into the garbage, but take it out of my mouth with my hand or my fingers. I try to throw it in the garbage, but it sticks to my fingers. I'm trying to flick it off into the garbage can, and it finally flings off, but it goes onto the butt of a boy who's about in the 3rd to 5th grade. And he's in the row right in front of the garbage can, and the gum sticks there. My eyes get kind of wide in shock and surprise. I kind of can't believe it. Another boy about the same age, just standing around, has seen me, and our eyes meet. He too is a little surprised and just stares at me with this surprised look. I make a look of disbelief and kind of shrug my shoulders. I may have done I reach out to secretly get the gum off the kid's butt without the kid knowing it. I get hold of it and pull some off, but some is left on there. I kind of roll my eyes. The other kid is still watching. I grab some of what's left and pull some more off. I still can't believe some gum is still left. This other kid is still watching, while the kid with the gum on his butt doesn't know it's on there. I look at the other kid in a kind of disbelief. Then I get woke up. Okay. So, I sat for a moment in silence. I wrote my dream down, and then I wrote down the feelings, the trigger, the thoughts and behaviors. So the first feeling I had, and you want to do those in order, by the way. The first feeling I had was perplexed. The trigger was the gum stuck to my finger, and my thought was, what the? My next feeling was slightly hurried. The gum stuck, it stayed on my finger, and the whole whatever it was we were at was about to start. I'm thinking, it's about to start. Then I experienced shock because the gum sticks to the boy's butt. And I'm kind of like, how did that happen? And the behavior was I reached out to get some off, to get the gum off. Then I experienced surprise, and the trigger was that the gum stayed on the boy's butt. And my thought was, it's stuck. Then I felt disbelief. The trigger was I didn't get all of the gum off. And then my thought was, seriously? Oh well. My next feeling was slightly frustrated because the trigger is the gum was still there. And my thought was, oh, give me a break. Then I experienced slight puzzlement. The trigger was the gum was still stuck. My thought was, how am I going to get that off? What do I do now? Okay? So the colors that I chose, perplexed was blue-green, slightly hurried was yellow, shock was blue, surprise was green, disbelief is brown, slightly frustrated was a reddish color, and slightly puzzled was a sky blue. Here, is the my coloring sheet. And as you can tell, I can't think of the name of this shape, but anyway, it's a rectangle with slanted edges. I can't think of the name of it, that shape, but that I took geometry a long, long time ago. Okay. So what I saw in the 8th step when I was finished identifying the dominant color, so surprise or green is connected, well, I'm sorry, number 8, I apologize, go back to number 8. The colors are pretty evenly distributed except for the brown color. Green seems to touch every color but that brown color. And only one of the colors, blue-green, has specific lines. The other interesting thing is that all the blues are close together. So step number 8 was identifying the dominant colors and patterns and seeing if there were overlapping colors or colors that touched. Now on to number 9, which is looking at the list of feelings and identifying the feelings that are connected with each color. So surprise is green and is connected to every feeling but disbelief. Surprise seems dominant, and it did run throughout the dream. The whole dream, after I went to the back, there was surprise or some feeling in that feeling family of surprise. Now, disbelief, I noticed, the brown was very small, and perhaps because I moved on quickly from that. I had to move on quickly from that. Yellow is a hurried, it represented hurried for me. And it is on the sheet twice, but the hurriedness is separated. Yellow's here and then over here. Surprised is between the two periods of hurried. The slightly frustrated, the reddish color, is wrapped by surprise and hurry, as you can see on the picture of my drawing, of my coloring. So then I sat for a moment, I thanked the Spirit for what I had been given in the coloring aspect, and then I went on to number 11, which is reviewing the feelings and the triggers and the thoughts and the behaviors. So I asked myself in my life, now I'm looking at my life, outer and inner, what am I stuck and perplexed about? Is there something that is not nourishing that's hanging on to me? For example, gum. I see gum as not very nourishing and it's stuck. But it's not just stuck to anything or anyone. It's stuck to a young boy. So is there a young male part of me that there's something stuck to that I'm clueless about, but that needs to be addressed? Perhaps there's something that I'm not seeing as that young boy, but others are. And maybe I'm shocked about it all. Where am I feeling hurried at times in my life? But then it slows down and I just pick up and move on. Am I frustrated at something that I can't move forward with? Or am I frustrated about not being able to figure out how to move forward or how to get rid of whatever seems to be hanging around? Or am I puzzled about the next step in my journey? Since I don't know what I'm going to do, how am I going to get that gum off that boy's butt? Am I puzzled about my next step in my journey? So these are questions that I sat with and will sit with in looking at the dream. Now, to honor that dream, what I wound up doing was chewing a piece of gum. And this is significant because I don't normally chew gum. So it was a way for me to honor that dream by chewing that piece of gum. Again, if you have any questions about this method or any of the other things that I've talked about on any of my other videos, please leave the questions in the comment section. I'm going to address questions on my next video. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Please be sure and hit the like button if you like it. Hit the subscribe button if you think you would like to see more videos like this. Again, thank you, and may you have many blessings across your path. Sweet dreams. Be sure to write those down and work with those. Thank you.